Hi, everyone. Here to talk about the withdrawal, thank the Lord, of the nomination of Ed Martin Jr. to be the United States Attorney in Washington. Okay, just for starters, the guy's never been a prosecutor. No one who's headed up that office in memory, and since we've really understood records and stuff, has not been a prosecutor or a judge. Has, in other words, come knowing nothing. Martin, however, far, far worse. As the acting U.S. attorney, he's abused his office in countless ways, starting with the really indefensible point that he represented for the United States and dismissed the charges against a client whom he had represented as a defendant. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that 1,000 ways to Sunday. It's a rank ethical violation. And that's just part and parcel of his general. I mean, there's many things he's done really bad in, reaching out to Russia, writing these letters that he has no business writing, just trying to make trouble for certain, always Democrats like Charles Schumer. But definitely on the whole January 6th realm, he's a disaster. He has, among other things, from the start been, represented them, argued for their pardon, been very much on the plan of these are, American heroes and we need to treat them as such, firing people in his office who have done nothing but their jobs in prosecuting the cases against January 6 offenders, which would have been the right thing to do, even if it was a kind of a close call about whether it's a righteous prosecution, which it was not. Of course, we had to. It's the biggest operation in the history of the Department of Justice, and he's just against it. So institutionally, he comes in, besides having no experience as someone just, he's not a law enforcement guy. Maybe there's room out there for Trump and Trump's fans. Oh, I don't think there is. But in any event, for somebody to be saying, well, these are heroes and patriots, and let's really try to worry about the January 6th defendants. Not the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, the largest office that oversees some 300 supervisors in the country. Oh, by the way, he basically forced out the very respected, long-serving chief of the criminal division based on his demand to her to convene a grand jury against Schumer and against the EPA, with no predicate for what you need in order to convene a grand jury, just complete abuse. Okay, but it's the January 6th stuff that did him in, and Senator Tillis, who's on the Judiciary Committee, basically parted company and said, I just can't support this guy. And that means the likelihood of his getting out of committee is 0 or so. And the likelihood, therefore, of being confirmed is also 0. So Trump bows to the inevitable. I just want to point out, we've had nominee after nominee, heading of departments and agencies that have gotten in by the skin of their teeth because Trump has either skillfully, you could say, or ruthlessly pushed on his extremely narrow preference or razor's edge advantage in the U.S. Senate and gotten all these people through. And as terrible, horrible, no good, bad as Ed Martin Jr. was, it could have been that way for him as well. Trump has repeatedly endorsed him. Even today in pooling the nomination, Trump says he's a very good man, and I'm sorry this had to happen. Even Senator Tillis in saying, God, I don't know about this guy who's basically on the whole other side when it comes to January 6th, said nice things about him. This is a guy whose whole background is political, chief of staff to the governor of Missouri, and whose ideas about the department, starting with, but far from ending with, all of the January 6th defendants, are just the opposite of what you would want a U.S. attorney to have, not to mention his absolute proclivity for abuse. U.S. attorneys convene grand juries, do investigations, speak with their filings. Here he's just been on his own, writing letters to people, always Democrats, saying, I've heard that you've been doing this. You must respond to me right away and tell me if you have and what your response is. That's completely illegitimate. That's not how U.S. attorneys work. They work on the facts and the law. They investigate the facts, then they bring charges and against defendants who have the full panoply of due process protections. Not this kind of Inquisition style, oh, I've heard some things and you better come clean and tell me all about it, rattling sabers with the implication, the false implication, that there's federal law enforcement behind these bogus letters. So he is bad, 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 bad. You had a very long list, Democrats and Republicans, I'm on it, saying, do not confirm this guy. As bad as everything's gotten, you got to draw the line here. Do not confirm him. And that's not going to happen. Hooray. You know, all the things that made him unqualified didn't seem to hit home to the Senate, except this one completely indefensible point that really did give pause to Senator Tillis and really does mean he wouldn't get out of committee. So Trump spared him. It's the ultimate kind of final gesture, a sort of a somewhat softer landing pad. He's withdrawing the nomination, saying it's a darn shame. But now Martin won't have to go through the spectacle because he's nominated and he's up there. Oh, and he did his disclosure statement. I've been a U.S. attorney. It is long and broad and detailed, and he just omitted really important stuff. He lied. This is fraud, material omissions. The guy, there's 8 reasons not to confirm the guy. But anyway, so now Trump lets him have a modicum of self-respect and being able to not have this come to a vote, not have the Judiciary Committee fail to approve him on party grounds, plus Senator Tillis, not have it go to the floor. So reluctantly, although it's the only even arguable good government solution, Trump bows to the inevitable and withdraws his nomination of Ed Martin. We'll see who comes next. And maybe that the judges appoint someone, which would be, that happens sometimes when you need to do it. It's a very interesting dynamic here because all the judges are the very ones who presided over these January 6th trials, know these people who Trump has pardoned and called patriots and expressed love literally toward, are absolute traitors to the country, nasty, violent actors. In other words, are not well disposed toward the Trump agenda within the U.S. Attorney's Office. So we'll see whom they might appoint and how that would go. But dodge a cannonball here that Ed Martin Jr. will not be the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.